Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis and I'm featuring the X4 Pro here today. This is the part 2 video of our previous video for the X4 Pro. This is the low edition, what some would call the base model edition. It has a 1-axis gimbal on the bottom. If you just bought this one, this is a great video to watch and share with your friends if they have one, because we're going to show you how to set this up from the beginning. From the very first parts of charging up your battery, putting the props on, and getting it all prepped up for your first day to fly out in the field. After we do that, we're going to head out to the field. We're going to do a flight test in real time with my new GoPro 5, and we're going to show you some flight footage as well on the screen during that flight test. And I'll show you some tips as well, and some good things and some bad things about the X4 Pro. If you're considering buying it, we'll let you know the real details on the X4 Pro. So let's go ahead and get started with the setup. Okay, now first things first, the first thing you want to do is take your USB cable and plug it into the side of your action cam that came with it. This is a little 1080p cam, and charge this up. Make sure it's fully charged before you take it out for your first flight, because you don't want to take it out of the box and then put it on here, because your battery is going to be super low when you first get it. So go ahead and make sure you have a full charge. It also comes with this little flat sort of GoPro looking type battery, and this plugs in just like this in the back. Put the back plate back on and slide it down into the gimbal until you feel it flush with the back of the gimbal. Now you can take this little piece, this little arm that goes across the front. There's a little tab on the very bottom, and make sure you put that tab in the bottom of the gimbal. Make sure it's on the tooth on the very bottom. Now take this little bolt here and put it through the very top part, and you're going to screw that down into place, and make sure it's nice and firm. Don't over tighten it. It's got a little screwdriver edge there that you could tighten it a little tighter with a screwdriver, but this will be totally fine. Now we're going to take this little USB cable that's hanging down on the side and plug that in. So we're good to go with the gimbal setup. Very simple setup. Don't worry about this wire in the back here. That doesn't do anything. That's for a 3-axis gimbal. So now let's get to the next part of the setup. Now you got 8 props total with the X4 Pro, but go ahead and grab 4 of them. You want to grab 2 A's and 2 B props. And we're going to start with this back right motor. I always do that out of habit. This is kind of the way I usually do things, putting props on my quads. And I'm going to start out with a B prop, and there's a little tiny little letter on there that says B. You can just barely see it, and it shows you which way unlocks and which way locks the prop, with a little arrow indicating which way it spins. So to lock it, I'm going to spin it to the right, and it should come to a stop. Now, one thing I recommend, and I didn't see the other guys recommending this, but I'm going to recommend that you tighten them just a little tighter. So take your little tool that came along with your Hubsan X4 Pro and put it down in between the motor stem down here and the edge of the motor, and just tighten it, crank it down just a little more than hand tight. So remember, that one's turning to the right. And this is going to be a left turn prop on the back here, and generally quads don't have left turn props on the back right rear, but this one does. So that's the way it goes on. Now we're going to spin the quad. We can spin it. We'll do the number 2 motor, which would be the A motor, and you grab an A prop, and this one says to lock, turn to the left. So we'll put this one on, spin it down until it stops, then we'll use the tool and crank it down a little further. Okay, this is just going to help make sure that your props are on. If you have motor kickback, which happens sometimes with quadcopters, it's not going to kick that prop off the motors. Old Phantom style DJI quadcopters used to have that issue where they would kick a prop off. So people watch their props fly off midair. With a quadcopter, it's going to crash if you lose one prop. So very important that you put your props on nice and tight. So now I'll go ahead and do the other 2, and we'll be finished with the props, and we'll move on to the controller. Now you want to make double sure that your batteries are all up to date and charged up in the back of this. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this screw. I'm going to show you what I'm using for the battery on mine. I'm using an 11.1 volt 3S battery with a JST connector in here. This is just a little 850, and this will totally get us through a single flight, maybe even 2 or 3, maybe 4 flights. But you can get a little longer one in there. You can actually get probably a 1000 milliamp 3S battery in here. And make sure it has this little red style connector in here. This is a little JST. Go ahead and pull this out so you can see it. And when you plug it in, make sure you have the polarity correct. We're just going to plug that back in. And the flat side flat side is actually going to go up. So be sure you don't reverse the polarity because you could fry your radio. I'm going to take that bolt, put that bolt back on, and screw it into place. Because this will fall open without this screw here. It doesn't have a snap on the back. And like I showed in the other video, you can do a video out if you want to an external monitor here. But you can also take and use a little 7-inch 5.8 gigahertz video transmitter receiver to receive the video coming from this, because this is sending out video. So you can actually use an external monitor. It won't have all the telemetry on it, but it'll show you your record screen, how long you've been recording, and what actual photography mode you're in, if you're in video mode or you're in photo mode. So now the next thing you want to do is you want to grab your 5.8. This is a patch antenna, and these usually go on long range style drones. Makes the video signal quite a bit better. We use these also with racing goggles, and they work great. Now, if you have one sitting around, go ahead and grab a little tiny wrench and just ever so lightly give this a little twist so it locks into place nicely. Do not over tighten it because you'll strip the threads. Also, when we're flying, we're going to tilt these up like this so we get the best signal. Now I can turn on my transmitter and I can check out my voltage on the battery. It lets me know just the voltage on the battery here. It says 11.7 here, so I could actually throw this battery back on the charger and charge it up to a full charge above 12 volt. Should be 12.6 volt when it's fully charged. So now let's go ahead and show you how to get your battery charging. Once we get that charged, we'll go out to the field. Okay, so now we're going to set up everything for the battery to charge, and you want all these items out here. You want the AC power adapter, you want the balance charger, and you want your XT30. This is your lead that's going to plug into the charger. You want your battery, and you want your power cable. Now if you got one of these that has a European Union style connector, make sure you grab one of these off Amazon. This is like $3 or $4, and it plugs in just like this. And then you're going to hit this little unlock button here, and it'll bring out your US style connector. Now go ahead and take your balance charger, plug this into, let's see, you take your power adapter actually, plug it into here. Then you're going to plug the smaller end into the back of the balance charger. This little tiny hole here. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take your battery lead, plug it in here. We're going to do a balance charge on this as well, and I'm going to show you how to do that. On the side of the charger, it says 3S on here on this bigger side. Go ahead and take your battery and plug this into, actually we'll go ahead and plug this into the power outlet first. Good idea before we plug the battery into the side of the charger. Now we can go ahead and plug in this balance lead, and you're going to plug in your, so you want to make sure we got power here on this. There we go. Okay, so you see the green lights blinking here? Now we'll plug in this XT60. That beep is going to let you know that it's now cell balance charging. So there's 3 cells inside this battery, and it's going to take care of each of those 3 cells and make sure that they're properly balanced. That's what this little white cable is for, making sure that you get a proper balance charge. Very important with LiPo batteries. So now we'll wait for this battery to charge, but in the meantime I wanted to show you this. This comes along inside the controller. I took this out because I'm not going to use my rechargeable AA's on this. It takes 8 AA's, by the way. I do recommend the rechargeables because this video monitor sucks a lot of energy out of the batteries, and you'll be replacing them a lot. So this also has a JST connector on here, but my battery also has one. So if you have a battery that has a JST connector on it, that's great because you can use this charger to also charge JSTs on there. They also give you another lead that comes along with this charger in the charger box. So super nice. Now once this charges up, we'll head out to the field, and I'll double check to make sure that my transmitter has a full charge on that as well, and we'll do some flying. One last flying tip before you head out to the field: make sure you grab your micro SD card and put it in the top of your Hubsan camera. I forgot to tell you that in the first part, so you're going to slide that down and push it down until you hear it click into place. I've got a 16 gigabyte little Let's see what brand this one was. This is a Samsung Ultra 16 gigabyte micro SD card. You can pick those up at Walgreens. So let's go out to the field and do some flying and some video recording. All right guys, welcome to the field. We're gonna do that flight test for you real quick. And also, if this is your first day, make sure you bring out something like a little landing pad or something like this to launch off of and land off of. It makes it a little bit easier. But what I'm gonna go ahead and do first is, you wanna make sure that when you come out to a local field, make sure you have plenty of room out here for this copter, because this is a really, really fast drone when it's in ADI mode, in the non-GPS mode. You fly it in GPS, it'll come to a stop, and I'll show you about those different modes in a few minutes. But we'll go ahead now, we'll turn on the transmitter, and we'll let the GPS load up as well. So open up the back of the quad, plug in your XT60. It's going to ask you to calibrate the compass first, so that's what we'll do first. Okay, close up the back there. You might be able to see on the screen here, I'm not totally sure, but it does say calibrate compass, and it wants you to rotate it on the horizontal axis first and then on the vertical with the camera facing down at the ground. So make sure that you don't cover up the GPS with your hand, because you'll interrupt the signal to the GPS above the quad. So rotate it, and the lights are flashing on the bottom, and they should stop and turn to green. Now it wants me to rotate vertical. You can see those green flashing lights. They should go solid when we have a total calibration. Maybe one more time around. And it says that we're good to go. So now we can take off. But first thing you want to do is make sure you turn on your camera. Press on the power button there. And we can start recording. Once we have video here to the transmitter, we can start recording before we take off. So remember, don't cover up the top of the drone with your hand. You can interrupt the GPS. So we'll go ahead. Now we have all of our telemetry on screen here. I'm just going to come up first and do a hover test. And the way you arm it is sticks down into the center or to the bottom outside. So here we go, guys. Before you take off, always look right to left to make sure no one's gonna come near you when you take off. Here we go. Now after you calibrate the compass, it should stay in one spot. If you notice that your drone is wandering a lot and it starts at what I would call a toilet bowl effect, land it, recalibrate the compass, turn everything off, turn it back on, let the GPS load again, recalibrate the compass, and then do your takeoff again. So let's go out here a little further out into the field. Now this is a very, very, very nice and classy drone, you guys. For the money, this is really nice because the GPS is doing its job. Right now it's holding very, very well. As I say that, it drifts a little tiny bit, but it's actually doing pretty well. And I'm not touching the sticks at all, as you can see here. So it's doing its job by maintaining that hover. We've got green LEDs in the rear and looks like blue in the front. Now I can change my camera angle here by tilting this lever. The T2 lever will put me straight ahead. And you don't want to turn it all the way down and have it come totally up, because there's a servo in this one. It's the one-axis gimbal, and the servo, if you put it all the way up, it will stress out the motor in the servo. The servo starts what we call winding. So be very careful about that. Maybe put a mark on your transmitter when you do it indoors, and listen for that servo to make a winding electronic noise. So if it does that, just back off just a little bit so it doesn't make that noise, and you'll save that servo's life, because it could burn that motor out. So the hover test looks like that's good. Let's come over here close to the ground and I'll do a quick little punch out real quick. We'll test out these motors. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And that's about it for the punch out. But the LEDs look really, really nice today. just a little bit overcast. So now I'm gonna come back down. And if this is your first day out flying a quad, what I like people to do is, I like to do circuits. And what we do first is what we call a square circuit. You fly out with the right stick only, leave this one alone, fly out to the right, and let go of the stick, and it'll stop itself in GPS mode. Now fly out a little further, stop, and we're gonna make an imaginary square. Come out to the left, stop. Now we're gonna go back with the back stick, stop. Now come back over to the right and let go of the stick, and it'll stop itself. So that's the way it flies in GPS. You can fly this drone off of this right stick if you want to. Now we're gonna do a quick organic circle. Now we go out and around and come back around, and that's the first organic circle. And you do that with this right gimbal. This is called a gimbal, by the way. It's not a joystick. In the hobby, we call these gimbals. There's also a gimbal on a lot of drones these days, motorized gimbals with brushless motors. When we first started flying drones, we had hard mounts, and then we moved up to servo gimbals. And servo gimbals were okay, they were all right. But now we use brushless gimbals, which make all the difference. So let's come back over here real quick, and I'm gonna do a speed test. I'm gonna set this drone over here. I'm gonna start recording. I'm gonna press the exit button there, and it should start recording. You can press and hold once. And now in GPS mode, let's do a speed test real quick. We'll keep going along this trajectory. I'm gonna look over here to my left to make sure no one's coming. And that's not too bad. I can see my heading here. I'm gonna fly around, and it doesn't seem to be losing too much altitude, which is actually kind of nice. I'm just pressing forward, full forward on this stick. Okay, and I'm still in GPS, so if I let go, watch what it does. It actually backs up and stops itself in place. That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna bring it back over here, and now I'm gonna show you the other mode. So in the GPS switch here, when you guys take off, by the way, for the first time, make sure your home switch is down so that you're not in return to home mode, okay? GPS switch has to be up to be in GPS when you're first loading it up to record the home point. And you want to wait about 1 to 2 minutes to record your home point so that you have enough satellites to take off. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna flip out of GPS mode, and now it's gonna start drifting like it's on ice, like it's skating on ice. It no longer has a GPS lock to it like we originally have. So if you're filmmaking, I particularly like to fly in this mode because it doesn't bring itself to a constant stop, and I feel like I get a better pan when I fly like this. If I'm trying to make a pan to the left and I let go of the stick, you see that? It has a nice pan to the left there. And you gotta watch out, because you can fly it directly into a tree with this mode, because it's not gonna stop itself. It's just gonna keep heading in that direction when you stop pushing the stick. Flying over there to the right. And now it's gonna also fly a lot faster. So we'll go ahead, I'll show you a speed test now with this altitude mode, altitude hold they call it. Altitude hold still holds its altitude, but it doesn't hold its positions. Now we'll go ahead and do full forward stick, and it looks like it wants to drive into the ground, so you want to give it a little bit of throttle and bring it up, because it will drive itself straight into the ground. I saw another video out there with this guy. Let's see, it can go straight down at the ground there. So give it a little more throttle and bring it back up. It's better if you do that higher up and not so low to the ground. I take more chances because I've been flying for quite a long time. If you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe, you guys. We got tons and tons of really cool drone videos and new drones coming out every week. It seems like I get a box, 2 boxes a day these days. It's getting pretty packed in my workshop. Tons of cool stuff coming in all the time. You'll probably see some stuff you've never heard of before on the channel, which is kind of fun. I see a lot of stuff that I've never seen before arrive at my doorstep, unbox it for the first time, and wow, that's pretty cool. then I get to share it with you guys. So now I'm coming back. I'm going to switch back into GPS, you guys, and let's do that real quick. And I'll show you an example of it flying in this altitude hold mode, and then watch what happens when I flip back into GPS. Okay, I'm still in altitude hold. I'm going to go straight full forward stick. You see it come back like that? It's holding its position again. Now, a lot of times when I'm training people to fly, I also have them do what I call a GPS column. And a GPS column is simply learning how to use the throttle stick on the left. And what you guys do to do a GPS column, if you're brand new to this, getting used to the throttle stick takes some time. So the first thing I have people do is that GPS column, which is simply fly straight up above you using the left stick only. And then when you get comfortable with that altitude, come down, keep flying down using the left stick only. And we're going to complete that GPS column. Now you can go up to 400 feet if you want to. If you're in an area where you can fly at 400 feet, no problem at all. And that's the FAA ceiling for consumer drones. 400 feet is the max that we're allowed to fly by FAA standards, okay guys? And we're keeping this in kind of close. I'm not really exploring too far with this. I just want you guys to see all these different cool modes here. Now this is an updated video compared to some of the other videos you've seen out there for this quadcopter, because it's December 2016. A lot of the videos that we've seen for this one are actually from the beginning of the year. So this is an updated firmware version, and it's not drifting a whole lot like I saw another one do. It did this weird jerky thing back and to the left or right, and a couple of them were acting kind of funny in some of the reviews, but this one seems to be very, very locked in this particular mode, in this GPS mode. It's nice that you can do that. Now let's go out here real quickly. I've got 11 volts on the battery, so it's going to get pretty low here pretty quick. So I'm going to go ahead and flip back into, we'll hit the return to home switch here, and it's going to rise up and come back. Now when it's in return to home, I don't have any way to control the drone at all. The sticks don't work. Some of the other drones will let you do that. The only thing I can do is turn the T2 button to change the gimbal. Now I'm going to stop recording. Now it's descending. We'll see if it lands pretty close to my original takeoff spot. Uh-oh, what's it doing? So that was really interesting. It actually took off again when it felt like it wasn't stable, and it went and found a new spot on the ground. That was really interesting. I've never actually seen a drone do that before. I thought it might fly into my bag. So if you're new to this, like me, right, be sure to set any bags or obstacles out of the way of the launch site. Well out of the way. Now one thing that bothers me about this quad is I'm still in that return to home function, and it didn't cut the motors off right away. So that kind of bothers me. All right, now you have to push your sticks down and out to disarm the motors. And the only thing that bothers me about that is sometimes when people do that, they push the stick to the right and they don't get this one right on, and what happens is you have a tip over. So the accelerometer overreacts to the correction because the drone is sitting on the ground and it thinks it's about to fall over. So this has happened to other quads in the past. But I'm pretty pleased with this quad. I think it's a pretty high quality quad, and it's a lot of fun that it does come with a camera. Like I said, this is the low edition, they call it. You can get another version of it with actually a brushless 3-axis gimbal on here. You can put a GoPro on there. Like I showed you in my other video, the part 1 version of this video shows you that it does accept the GoPro Hero 3 and the Hero 4. So that's a pretty cool drone, you guys. It does have LED in the front right here that lights up this little orange bar. And the props are a quick release, so I can take those off pretty quick and pack it up for travel.
and the landing gear look like they'll come off as well. So if you wanted to break this totally down and put it in a backpack for the airline, like, you know, in the overhead carry-on bin, you could do that. But the battery is pretty heavy. I'm gonna get 25 minutes flight time out of that battery for sure. It's definite. You're gonna get 25 minutes. Now, one last bonus tip for you guys. If you're new and you haven't flown your X4 Pro yet, this is the way that you're going to start it up. You're going to turn on the controller first, and then you're going to plug in the drone. Now, when you come down and land and everything is still on, go ahead and set your quad back on your landing pad. And what you're going to do is open up the back here, and you're going to unplug the drone first. Because if you turn off the controller first, then the drone is going to think that it lost signal, and it's going to want to return to home. So make sure that you don't do that. Also, before I was telling you about not sticking your hand over top of the quad while you're doing your compass calibration, because watch this. See that? It says GPS signal lost. The GPS is located up inside this shell at the top to get the best signal. Watch again. If I grab this with my hand, GPS signal, it even beeps too to let me know. So like I said, unplug the quad first. And now you still have your GPS coordinates on here. So if you lost signal and it crashed somewhere and you lost video here, you still have your GPS coordinates on here for your longitude and latitude. Take a picture of that with your cell phone and enter it into Google Maps or some kind of GPS tracking software or app on your phone. You might be able to go find your drone in that vicinity, because that'll be the last recorded known position. So pretty cool, guys. The X4 Pro, I definitely recommend it. It's a pretty awesome quadcopter. And thanks again for watching, and check out the link below for this and some of the extras that we'll provide for you below. You guys, I'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hey guys, thanks again for watching that episode. Please do click subscribe so you can see all the newest drones coming out each week on the Drone Camps channel. We're going to show you tons of new stuff coming out in the drone industry. I'm Justin Davis from Drone Camps. Thanks again. I'll see you on the next one.